All right, a lot of you have been asking me to do a comparison between the Osmo 360 and the Action 5, but more specifically for the Osmo 360 in single lens mode so that you can see whether it's worth getting the Osmo 360 if you have the Action 5, or if you don't have the Action 5, whether you should just get the Osmo 360 and not worry about having to get the Osmo Action 5. So this is not going to be 360 footage, it's just single lens mode, where the Osmo 360 acts like a traditional action camera like the Action 5, so there's no reframing of the footage, it's just you shoot it and then it is what it is. So I've got my laptop here, just like with the Osmo Action 4 comparison, because I shot all the footage across the 3 cameras at the same time, but I just wanted to separate the videos because I've already done a comparison between the Action 4 and the Action 5, so I just wanted to have as much screen space dedicated to these 2 cameras rather than all 3, so that you could see footage a lot easier. So when you actually look at the footage, there's not a huge difference. So I shot this in my car. It was a bit of a rainy day, a bit gloomy, and there's not a huge difference between, I'm going to say it now, there's not a huge difference between the footage between the Osmo 360 and the Action 5. They look so similar. When you look at things like the dynamic range, like in the car here, I was in Ohio and bright sunny day, you look at the footage here and the dynamic range is actually slightly better on the Osmo 360, I'm not going to lie. The shadows are lifted a little bit more and the light looks more balanced on the Osmo 360 versus the Action 5. But in most situations, in most scenarios, it looks very, very similar. If you take, for example, this clip where I'm filming out of the window, out of the car, you can just see it looks so similar again. The only difference that I will say is that with the Action 5 Pro, you can see that halo around like the trees and whatnot from the HDR of the footage, and this is something that I have talked about so much in so many videos, so I'm not going to keep banging on about it, but you don't really get that with the Osmo 360, so when you shoot in the normal colour profile. But otherwise, the footage just looks so similar. I think if you were to get the Osmo 360, I don't think you would necessarily need the Osmo Action 5 Pro as well. And the same also goes for when you shoot in D-Log-M. Both of them grade really nicely, and in fact, the only time I use the Osmo Action 5 Pro is if I'm shooting in D-Log-M, or rather, if I use the Action 5 Pro, I only shoot in D-Log-M, I don't use the normal colour profile. And I did just release a new set of LUTs, which are both conversion and styled LUTs at the same time. So there are 8 unique LUTs. You don't have to convert the footage first. You literally just take a LUT, drop it on your footage, and you're pretty much good to go. You maybe have to adjust the exposure or the white balance if it just wasn't correct in camera, but other than that, you don't really have to do anything. You just drop the LUTs onto the footage. And like I said, there are 8 to choose from, and these are really good in situations where it's kind of sunny, you've got that kind of summer vibe going on. And I'm actually working on another set of LUTs because I've been asked to do some indoor LUTs, and then also some LUTs where, as the summer's going, it's going to be overcast and I live in the UK, so I need some LUTs that are going to look nice in that kind of environment, so I'm working on a set of LUTs for those as well. But I have dropped a link in the description to the Urban Summer LUT Pack. They will work on the Osmo Pocket 3, the Osmo Action 4, the Action 5 Pro and the Osmo 360. So if you shoot in D-Log-M with any of those cameras, the LUTs will work, which is pretty good, if I do say so myself. So yeah, check out the link in the description and let me know what your favourite LUT is if you do pick up the pack. So yeah, with D-Log-M 10-bit, you are going to have no problems colour grading the footage from either of these cameras, and the footage is going to look great from both of them as well. One thing that I will say about the Osmo 360 is, so I shot a clip where I was walking with my back to the sun, so I was backlit, and I was expecting that I wasn't going to be lit very well, but actually the footage looks decent, it's usable. Normally I would always say try not to shoot with your back towards the sun, because depending on which camera it is, the person or the subject isn't necessarily the priority when trying to expose the scene. It's usually the scene itself that is taking priority for the exposure, and so the subject is darker, especially with my skin tone as well. I've just come out so dark on some cameras. Whereas with the Osmo 360, I can be with the sun behind me and the footage looks absolutely fine and it's usable. I would actually use it. So that is actually, and also with the Action 5, but I think the Osmo 360 does a slightly better job with its dynamic range. And similarly, if you're walking in the shade, so if you go from the sun to the shade, both cameras do a really good job. Again, slightly better in the shadows with the Osmo 360, but you're not going to go wrong with either one of these two. Now, when it gets to low light, this is where things change a little bit. So if you were to shoot in single lens mode with the Osmo 360 in low light, because there's no super night mode, the footage with the Action 5 Pro looks better. There's no question it looks better. The Osmo 360 kind of looks like the footage from the Action 4, but if you were to then change the Osmo 360 into the panoramic video, or the 360 video mode, and use super night, because it's not in the single lens mode, that's when the Osmo 360 does a better job than the Action 5 Pro. And the Action 5 Pro, and that's the Action 5 Pro in its own super night mode as well, so not just the normal video. So Osmo 360, 360 camera, super night mode, and the Osmo Action 5 Pro in its super night mode. The Osmo 360 does a better job. So if you want something which is going to be the best in low light, I would definitely say the Osmo 360. You just have to be mindful that you're shooting in 360 mode and you will then have to reframe the footage. Whereas if you don't want to have that hassle, then you're better off just picking up the Action 5 Pro, because if you want to shoot in the normal video with either of them, or more so with the Osmo 360 in single lens mode, then you're just not going to get the best low light footage. However, with the Action 5 Pro, if you shoot in just regular video, the footage actually doesn't look too bad at all. And when I have shot with the Action 5 Pro in low light, I have favoured the look from the normal video over super night mode, because sometimes super night mode looks a little bit over processed. But the Osmo 360, you definitely need to use super night mode and not just use the single lens mode. So as a bit of a recap, if you're shooting during the day and you're not really bothered about having 360 footage, you don't want to have to mess around with reframing your footage, then I just go for the Action 5 Pro. If you want to have that versatility and that flexibility to potentially have 360 footage, but then also think sometimes actually I don't want to use 360 mode, I just want to use single lens mode and use it like a traditional action camera, then yeah, the Osmo 360 makes complete sense, and it's actually a really nice all-rounder for a camera. And then for low light, again, whichever one you go for, you're going to get good footage, but I would say that the Osmo 360 in its 360 mode, super night mode, 360 video, super night mode just does the best between the two. I feel like that was so much waffle, but there you go. So I have dropped a link in the description to the LUTs if you want to check them out, and I hope this video was useful. If it was, do give it a like, and I'll catch you on the next one.